Hey everyone, it's Rob Beeler here from the new refurbished Beeler.Tech studios. Finally got a background, Matt. I got with you Matthew Goldstein, who has actually a different report. So a couple of times we've talked about just overall quarterly trends, but Matt actually has another report that is even more extensive, more in depth. It's his, advertising and marketing publicly traded company report analysis for Q2 2018. Matt, this is massive. A lot of stuff here.
Yes, it is.
I'm gonna share it. Can you talk a little bit about the process and what this report is? And then once you're done with that, then I'll actually share it. I want people to listen as how much you
Okay.
put into this first.
Okay. First of all, welcome to my refurbished room with my purple and green, purple and whatever. It looked pretty nice, but it's fun. So I started doing this one. I don't remember, 4 or 5 quarters ago, and it seems like every one I try to do progressively more, it gets progressively better. In this one, I listened to 27 earnings calls. Wanted to do 30, but it became a bit overwhelming. I needed a break. Plus, it happened during my vacation to beautiful Atlantic City, Ventnor, Margate, so I didn't have as much time as I normally have. So I listened to 27 phone calls. Each one lasts about an hour, plus about 15 to 20 minutes to edit after each phone call. And then it probably takes me a good 5, 10, 15 hours to edit the entire document. So I say all in, you're talking 50 to 60 hours to put this together. But don't get me wrong, I love doing it. It's fun. I love sharing with everyone. But it's a lot of work, as you'll see as we go through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's definitely a part of, again, just listening to those earning reports, listening to multiple ones. I think is obviously a key piece, right? Because you
And I
pick
will
up
tell
on.
you, at the end of the day, there's one you need to listen to, and I will tell you that. That's my cliffhanger. I'll tell you which
Oh
one you have
wow,
to
there
listen
we go. Wow, we're getting better at this, right? We're even getting
to.
to
Yeah.
teasers to the end while you listen to the end. All right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the
Can I say
actually
one more
share.
thing? One more thing.
Yeah,
So my goal always is to get this analysis out the weekend after the 45th day of the quarter. Right. So the 45th day of the quarter is August 15th. Then we hit the weekend, and now today's Monday. I'm going to send it out tomorrow, Tuesday, which is the 21st.
got it. Great. And again, so that means, and so not only is it just doing it once, but it's actually watching it quarter after quarter and putting in that work. Amazing. So this is laid out as a Google Doc. So sharing it, no expectation that you read it. This is something you ask Mr. Goldstein for, and he'll share that with you. What he's done is laid out a summary, which we're going to talk through some key pieces here. Overall,
Can I tell you my process about the summary, because it gets
yes,
more
please.
refined and more refined. So what happens is, after every earnings call lasts about an hour, I take notes, I listen, or I then read the transcript, put it all together, and you get back down to the bottom. You'll see sort of like 15 or 20 bullet points on each one of the companies.
Right.
Okay, there you go. The first one's Netflix, and these are in chronological order, pretty much. And then what I do after I'm done listening and everything, then I go and I do, is it worth the listen, and the headline, because I try to take away that pithy, good headline with everyone. And then once I'm done the
Right.
headline, I go back up above to the executive summary, lay it out there, put a little meat on the bone, and then I put them all together. And once they're all together, then I sort of get my overview per each category.
Got
It's
it.
a process, but I think I figured it out finally.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like diving in, bringing it back out, dive
Yep.
in, and so forth and so on. And so, is there, I know that there's a phrase, machine learning, which pops up here at the top. Is that what you would say the overall picture? Is there something with this particular quarter, or
Well,
is
it's
it out there?
interesting. I did the platforms, the media companies, the ad tech companies, and two of the four holding companies. And I sort of look at them, they're all slightly different. Clearly, in the platforms, as you see right here,
Yeah,
machine learning came up several times across many of the calls. And it felt like the big guys, Google, Facebook, even Twitter, are using machine learning to provide just a better experience overall for the user and the advertiser. And the big guys can do it. The smaller companies can't hire enough engineers and product managers to be able to do that. So it it feels like in some ways you sort of have the haves and have-nots.
Yeah, it might be a reason for separation is between to your point, right? Yeah, that's interesting. I think one of the things in there I wanted to ask you about because I was curious if it came up in the earnings was actually Netflix, which I pulled up and I'll go to that again. Heard some reports over the weekend that people saw some actual ads in delivered through Netflix.
I mean, was it an ads or was it on-air promos? Right? Was it a promotion for another show
that they've been doing? I believe, and maybe I shouldn't speak out of turn, but I think in the UK they actually saw some non-promotional advertisers in there. So again, it might be something to watch for the next quarter, right?
I mean, in the Netflix earning calls, if you go down to the bottom, my last bullet point, as I recall this, I'm pretty sure I have there for Netflix, no mention at all the entire call about Netflix getting into the advertising business. And no one asked the question. Oh, I got to tell you one more thing. Here's my aspirational. I aspire in the next 2 or 3 or 4 quarters to be on every one of these phone calls and ask the same question to every single CEO, which will be, tell me about advertising and are your CPMs up or down year over year, quarter after quarter?
Amazing.
That would be fun.
Right? Absolutely.
Netflix, there's not a single advertising question asked. However, you do realize that 80 to 85% of their marketing is about advertising new properties that they're launching because they launch like a property a day, a show a day.
Right. Well, to me, it's something that's just a stealth project. They've been sitting on the advertising thing, and it just feels like either when they need to or when the market's right, turn them on.
Right. So who's got the best data in the world for advertising? Google or Facebook, right? And then Amazon 3, and Amazon might even be better because they have all your purchase data, right? Netflix knows a lot. Now, granted, it's not that easy to build an advertising platform. And if you go back up to the top, one of my other strong takeaways from the platforms is most of the big ones and the good ones, a little higher, all have self-serve, right? Self-serve drives these businesses, right? So if you want to get into the advertising world, you have to do self-serve, and it's not easy to build a self-serve platform, as you see from many of these calls, right? Facebook, Google did it first. Facebook did it second. You got Snap trying to do it, Spotify trying to do it, but it is really, really hard to do. So if Netflix is going to do it eventually, and by the way, I think AppNexus / AT&T / DirecTV / whoever they are is going to do it as well down the road. That's that stealth buy they made.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. You put it onto the marketer, let them get what they want, take what they want. You have scale so they can, you even have some flexibility to turn away things or whatever. Makes a lot of sense. Meanwhile, traditional publishers are scrapping for every direct deal and programmatic CPMs, right?
And the other thing about the platforms is also most of them feel like they're also thinking long term, not just quarter over quarter, right? Yeah. Most of them, it felt like they're making big decisions, like Snap with its redesign 6 months ago. They think about the long term. Facebook with all their investments in security is thinking about the long term. Google's always thinking long term. So sort of, you asked me what my top level was, and I'm just giving you the platform aggregator piece. I have it up top here. It's machine learning, it's self-serve, and it's long term. Okay. And then the other really important piece for these guys is it feels like they eventually, and they're doing it, they're all getting into each other's businesses.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So the competition's coming from within that little group. I think it's very hard for someone outside to come in and try to compete with those guys.
So there are a couple of the platforms I'm interested in, specifically what you said. And I guess one of the lenses, Matt, that I'd love to hear from you is these are earning calls, right? And obviously there's a bit of polish they put on this to tell a story, right?
Well, it's interesting. So the first 10 or 20 minutes is the polish when it actually comes to the written remarks that the CEO typically reads, right? Then you have the finance guy give his or her written remarks, and then you have the Q&A. And the Q&A is where they can't really be that polished because I think one of my friends is a CFO. He says the first question or second question is always from someone you know, and it's sort of an easy one. Right. But some of those questions that come are a little complicated, and then you realize how polished these CEO and CFOs are when it comes to those type of questions.
So let's then talk about Snap, which normally I'm not paying much attention to Snap, and if you want me to, I'll spin to
if
that.
You go, that's why the little outline over there is amazing. Just click on that. There you go.
Yeah.
So go to the headline real quick for Snap. Right. CPM's down 90% year over year. Because remember, a year and a half ago, they were doing all direct. Now it's all programmatic. So CPMs went down 90%.
And so that's the part, like all the things that Snap has done, and yet Snap still exists. And it's let's not call it dead, right?
No, it's not dead at all.
Not dead at all, right? So I'm just curious as to some of those parts there, like coming out of that redesign, out of that change. How are they positioning some of those statements?
There's a couple things. The total revenue for the quarter is $262 million, 44% up. Right, that's pennies compared to Google and Facebook. I don't even know what Facebook's number was. It's probably 12 billion, and Google's is probably 25 billion or something. Their impressions went through the roof, so they sort of can control the inventory, but they don't want to have too much inventory because then it hurts the user experience, right? And then the other piece was, I think if you scroll down a little bit, they talked a lot about the redesign and how the redesign that happened 6 months ago was so critical in what they're trying to do long term.
Right.
So, and they're really focused about delivering ROI back to advertisers, again, with the pixel that advertisers can actually put in there. So they have their sort of little walled garden.
Got it. So that's interesting, right? Because again, I think when I hear people talk about Snap, that redesign didn't go well, but if it's a long-term play, then it makes sense because they're building towards something and adjusting and learning.
Right. And then, the one point right there, I take this verbatim from what they say most of the time, manically focused on improve the experience for both advertisers and audience. Right.
Yep.
Like they are really into it. They're into, DR business. They want to get the pixel out there to measure success. They're doing small and medium business. They're trying to build their self-serve up even more. It's all programmatic now, where before it was all direct. So they're doing everything they can to move this business into the big ship on the right way.
Yeah. The other one. So just moving along, there are a couple other ones that popped out to me. Spotify, right? And again, I kind of like to think of with Scott Galloway. He's one of my people I follow.
We all aspire to be half as good as he is.
That's absolutely. Some point, you and I will do this in black and white, and we'll look that built, and we'll be that funny. Someday we're going to get there, Scott. Matt.
That count me in. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. Though, but and he talks about Spotify again, filling that void in people's lives. And so I'm just interested that you kind of point out the self-serve platform and where Spotify is going. Really kind of curious of your thoughts there.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I think Spotify's huge. I think they're in the audio business. They did make some hires that would tell you that they're trying to get into the video business, but on the call, they pretty much said they're not going to do that. Right? It says that the focus is still on audio and music and not on video, even though they made recent hires that say otherwise.
Yeah.
They have a self-serve platform they built, and they want to roll it out to small and mid-sized businesses. Again, they want to emulate Facebook and Google, and I've never used their platform, but the self-serve platforms, if you're going to get all those companies to move to it, it better be ridiculously easy like Facebook and Google are to actually use.
Right. Well, and to your point, you kind of already covered some of their hires, things that probably don't come up in earnings reports. We know a lot of those people, but you and I both know some of the all-stars that they've picked up there. They've got some definite talent at Spotify that I was a little surprised when people won't going to Spotify, but it tells you that they're making a bigger, longer play.
Right, and I'm pretty sure they have 180 million active users. and 101 million are ad supported. So they got the ad supported, like Hulu, they have a free and an ad supported. So they're sort of playing in both areas.
Right. Right. Interesting. So another one, just in this particular area that you touched on and certainly
Roku.
getting headlines, Roku.
So I
Right?
don't own any. I don't own any stock, but if I was going to own stock, Roku would be on the top of my list.
Yeah.
Yes.
Think
So,
they've transitioned to. Oh yeah, I love your headline. Right.
well,
Try to own the living
yeah.
room.
So and it's funny, who was trying to own the living room before Roku? Apple, right?
Right.
So now it feels, and Apple did not do a very good job owning the living room. So it feels like there is room for someone to own the living room. Not sure if they're going to be able to do it, but I think they're going after it.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, they're definitely one to watch, and I also look at some of the people. That's interesting. Maybe because you listen to earning reports, I probably am in LinkedIn most of my day,
Oh, that
and I
sounds like fun.
track a
That
lot
sounds
of
like fun.
movements.
Rob, that sounds like fun.
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, I tend to know where people are going, and I could probably give you like a little bit of information about just what I'm seeing in terms of movement, right?
Well, why don't we do this for the next one? Below every one of mine, you put the people who moved there, who the hires were.
Yeah. Yeah. Notable hires, notable
Right.
things that, again, like, let's put it like, I'm going to say our level, but what I'm getting at is the movers, shakers, not
Yes.
just the names, right? It's
Yeah.
the people we know that actually know what they're talking about.
So if you look right here on Roku, doing business
Yeah.
with well over 50% of the top 200 national advertisers.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
huge. Because
Yeah.
I think what happens is every big advertiser advertises on TV, correct? They have
Right.
to, right? And then if they're going to go for CTV, as we call it, or OTT, where are they going? Roku,
Right. Right.
right? That's amazing.
And OTT, so I'm just coming out of the Ad Monsters Publisher Forum. OTT was so big with those that have any ability to play in that space, right? Just solving it, measurability or whatever. Roku's going to be a piece of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to help define what that looks like.
Right. And if you want to talk to someone that's doing something interesting, I assume for your next ad monster is get whoever's running Roku in there to come in and talk to you.
Yeah.
Because
They
they're probably
spoke.
doing amazing stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I agree. So, kind of enough on the platforms for now. For me, let's see if I got to the right spot here.
Maybe to the top. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to go to okay, I'm in the wrong spot. So let me just pop
There
up
you go.
here
Go
to
to
the
the top.
top.
And now we're doing the media companies, right?
Yes.
Okay. So here's my headlines of the media companies, as we alluded to. Never a mention of engineers or product people, like the platforms. Overall advertising seems to be down. It's hard to really put this in a bucket, but sort of down 5%. It's up 5 to 10%. And most of them are moving to DTC or subscription business, especially Disney, which is crazy. And you also see the strength of TV and how the upfronts were so strong. Like
Yeah.
I'm not sure about this, but I think every sort of media company said how their upfront was better than everyone else's.
Interesting.
Right,
Interesting.
and it felt like the upfronts were up, 5 to 10% across the board. No, and I'm pretty sure ratings are going down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the upfronts go up, so they sort of maintain their revenue number, and it's remarkable how they do that year over year over year. I guess
Yeah.
eventually it's going to go down, but it hasn't happened yet.
It's funny you say that. I just alluded to a conversation I had earlier today with someone who's an ad tech person, and they were of course talking about things like index exchange and the cash bidding and all this
Oh, that
stuff.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a part of it where I always just have to stop people and go like, you're talking about advertising at this level. Understand advertising works at a much higher level. And when you talk about upfronts and the millions of dollars and the way that TV is transacted,
Billions. Yeah,
right? Like,
crazy.
it's
A whole different world.
it really is. It really is. That's why I do like Advertising Week, only because I feel like I feel like I'm a guest there. Like, it's a whole other industry that I'm supposed to be a part of, but those people are talking a whole other language, right?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, again, I think that's interesting. One, I want you to make mention of your weekly report that you do I'm going to mispronounce it, so you have
Agado,
to pronounce it.
Agado, Agaddo, Agado. You ready?
Agata.
A Goldstein and Delimpio dashboard operation. Worst name ever, but it's kind of fun.
Explain what that is, because again, people that are tied into you
Okay.
get
So
access.
so so on the side, I have this little Salesforce.com dashboard business, and it all started when I was at Dakota 12 years ago, and we sort of built everything out of Salesforce. My friend Art Delimpio then put into PHP. Make a long story short, 12 or 13 companies use it. And what I've been doing for the past sort of like, I guess, 17, 18 weeks, every week I put out a update on the benchmarking of the direct business. And I'm getting a lot of good feedback about that because it doesn't really exist that much. It just tells you how the direct business is doing. And one of my takeaways is for some of the traditional media companies, the direct RFP business, not programmatic, direct RFP, feels like it's on a little bit of a decline. And it
Hmm.
could be a permanent decline as that business totally just changes.
Yeah. Yep. Got it. Got it. Again, and that's our first mention of Art Olympio. I'm actually, I feel like we just crossed a certain milestone. We'll have to
I love Art Olympio.
we'll just have to work in. And if I knew my room, we just reorganized it. I still have my Dakota bag. I could bring that up and do it. Pop that in front of you. I almost want to do it, but I'm going to stop. We got to keep going.
Okay.
One other thing on the media companies that you pointed out, and I can pull up the thing. Viacom
Oh yeah.
licensing its data.
So,
Talk to me about what this means.
so I worked at Viacom for 16 years, so I know a lot about Viacom. I think if I went back there tomorrow, I'd actually fit right in and figure things out. The most remarkable thing they've done, and it blows me away, is they license their Viacom Vantage ad targeting product to Fox. Right. So a media company is licensing technology to another media company. Like that's remarkable. Now, granted,
Right.
Fox will be owned by Disney soon, so who knows what's going to happen. But the fact that they pulled that off is like I just think great for the business in a way where these TV companies who control that 70 billion US marketplace and there's no one real aggregator unless AT&T AppNexus figures it out. It's just nice to see that a media company is licensing technology. It's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. Um, Washington Post is privately held. Is that correct? You know?
Correct. I have no information on the Washington Post.
Yeah. I mean, their
We can
moves.
call up Jason Tolstrop. He'll probably give us some information.
Yeah,
But yeah, no.
absolutely. Well, I just watched the fact that their CMS and some of the things
Oh
that
yeah,
they're doing. I
right.
mean,
But they're a tech company because they have all those Bezos engineers, right?
right.
This
That's
is
right.
Viacom, which is on Times Square that typically doesn't have engineers, and they figured out how to build this thing and then license it to someone.
That's someone else. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll have to watch. That could be. I'd love to see that as
Well,
a.
I think you and I need a demo of that software. So if someone listens to this, they should invite us to a demo. We can see what it
I,
looks
I
like.
I would like to see that.
Oh,
Absolutely.
and there you go. Domestic advertising revenues declined 3%. That's my -5 to +5, but they license their software.
Right. Right. Interesting. So let's talk ad tech, which you
Oh, you're getting good at this going back up top now. Yep.
yeah. See, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. This is a
Uh,
lengthy document,
yeah.
right? So, ad tech.
So let
Quick.
me cut to the chase with ad tech. It's all about video CTV, and here's my cliffhanger. Jeff Green, the CEO of the Trade Desk, gives the most compelling 20-minute update on the ecosystem I have heard. Period. End of conversation. So if you're going to do anything, read my executive summary, and then go to the Trade Desk earnings call and listen to Jeff Green's overview on the ecosystem. It is phenomenal.
So that's the one you recommend if I were
That is
going to pick
the
one.
one I recommend by far.
Yeah, I would think again with their positioning in the space too. So great that he's compelling. Great that he pulls it all together and whatever
But it
because they're
feels like he has such a, I mean, this is the CEO has such a great like technical understanding of the business, and you don't hear that all the time for some of these CEOs who feel like they're so many levels above, but it feels like he's in the muck and he knows what's happening.
interesting. Interesting. Well, let's. I mean, I don't know if there's any one specific one you want to talk about. I think that's a good highlight.
Well, the
I'm
other interesting
interested
thing
in
was
agencies.
Nielsen. The other thing was Nielsen, which I didn't do before. I did Nielsen, and it was the only company out of all 27 that GDPR had hurt them. And
Yeah,
it felt like it was all the raw data they get from all the 100 or 200 partners all had issues coming in because of GDPR, and then it hurt them for this quarter, and it'll probably be a couple more quarters as well.
and I get it, and yet obviously again, my take on GDPR is we actually still haven't figured out how to comply with what's going on. People have made moves. They're half measures.
Yeah.
We'll see. And yet someone to really kind of take it on the chin because of it. The analogy I used in Portland for Ad Monsters is I compared GDPR to the San Andreas Fault, right? Like I'm going to prepare for this thing,
But
I
and
never know.
eventually, yeah.
Well, someday it's going to hit or not. I'm not sure. I did not move to California because of the San Andreas Fault, and I could have had 20, 30 years of not living in North. Of course, I'm Jersey, New York, so it would never get out of my blood, right? But that's
Yep.
That's how a GDPR feels for me. Like I'm not going to do certain things because of it, and I don't know when the bill comes. So
until that first lawsuit comes about.
Yeah. There are a couple things that have been going on, and I heard this past week, small guys who just got basically their wrist slapped to just say, hey, you're probably not doing this right, but nothing real. Nothing real. But, what's interesting is go from that to your agency assessment where Omnicom and Publicis, both you have GDPR kind of mentioned there.
Yeah, so now it's interesting with them, GDPR changed them a lot, but I don't think it really impacted them too much financially. But the one takeaway that I had, I think Omnicom was the first call I listened to. So now you're harking back like 30 or 40 days ago, that Omnicom is cautiously optimistic, right? Whatever that means, they're cautiously optimistic. And these guys, they're just treading water, trying to figure it out, move these gigantic companies with 5, 10,000 people plus in this ever-changing ecosystem. It is very hard for them. They're trying to get the data and use data to drive decisions. It's just not a great place to be, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did not get to listen to WPP and Dentsu, so I only have 2 of the 4, so it's probably not the best assessment like I have up above.
No, and what's funny,
again, like I said, I ran out of energy. I had 27. I had critical mass. I had to move on.
No one's going to look at this and think that you didn't, do the work. All I would say is, to me, WPP, that's like missing an episode of Game of Thrones right now, right? There's obviously a lot of stuff going on there. So, if I were you, take a break, listen to this one so that when you do the next quarterly one, you didn't miss a plot line. Because I think there's some plot lines.
I can promise you right now, the next one, I will, WPP will be on the list.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I'm following, the IPG, purchase, the Axiom LiveRamp. Again, very curious as to where.
Oh, and that's another one I missed. I missed LiveRamp.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I'm not trying to point out the ones you missed. Oh, I'm just sitting there thinking that from an agency perspective.
This was not the deal we had. You're not. Yeah, this is
right. Well, hey, this is where you say grab a post, right, and do this yourself, and then learn just what it takes to do. I mean, the number of hours.
I think as we come to the end, you need to go to my little word graph I did at the bottom.
That's right. So let's get there.
It's right below Omnicom.
I think this is a good place to start to wrap up.
Yeah. So what I did was I took the entire document, all I think 60,000 words, dropped it in. If you go down below, you can actually see the name of the tool I used.
Word clouds. Yep.
Yeah. And dropped it in, and there you go. Right there is all the words that popped up, and some are pretty obvious, like advertising and revenue. You see CEO, CFO. You see GDPR pretty high there, and you see 3 companies in there that pop up, right? And those are the ones that, yes, I mentioned them under the name, but other companies mention them as well. And you see Facebook up top.
Mm-hmm.
You see Google lower right, and you see Amazon at the bottom.
Right.
So if Facebook had 26 mentions, I probably mentioned Facebook inside the Facebook call 4 or 5 or 6 times. Other companies mentioned them as well. Right. So I thought that was an interesting way of looking at it, a nice visualization.
And it'll be interesting to do this again, right? Because some prediction that AT&T, which is a little bit smaller to the left there.
Yeah.
Right. I wouldn't consider that a scientific analysis, but
this was not scientific at all, but this was fun. And once I found the program and I got it right, it took me no time. I thought it was a nice little piece to add.
Great. So this, we gave you a little bit of an overview of the report. Obviously, a lot more goes into all of this. And again, so I can even go to any one of them, whether it be Meredith, you put together a headline, you've
Yeah.
got your talking points. Um,
Oh,
so how does,
one more thing to add.
yeah,
So,
please.
so yes, there's the executive summary. You have to read that. Yes, you have to listen to Jeff Green for 20 minutes. You can pick a couple of the 27 you want to look at. And then I think what you use this for is when you have that meeting or your boss asks you about some company, go here, look at this, and get the salient bullet points for that conversation.
Great stuff. How does one get this or get access to this?
Oh, well, so tomorrow I'm sending this out to about 1,000 people. I still use old email just with a BCC. I need to eventually figure out how to do constant contact or something. It's on my to-do list. And the other thing is, I would love to do one of these for a different category.
I was going to ask
Like,
you. Yeah.
yeah, the one that I love to do is retail. Like, I think retail is very closely related to, tangentially related to advertising and marketing. The problem is, I can't do it myself. It's just too much work. But I'd love to find someone out there who likes retail, wants to work with me to put it together and, crank it out, and it'd be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll give a spin through my contacts and see if I can suggest anyone, because I think that again, it's a space that, I'm. It's not directly involved in what I do, but I know, knowing
Well,
that,
right. And
yeah,
the
the
other thing, we
layers.
know that as advertising, ad tech gets a little bit harder, we need to find different buckets to specialize at.
Right.
I think retail's a good bucket that all us old ad tech people could figure out and get the next job.
You're always looking for the lifeboat out of ad tech, and
It's not about, and it's not about your next job. It's the one after that. I tell people all the time.
that if you're going to jump verticals, that's
Yep.
absolutely right.
Yep.
Great. So awesome overview, right? And
Thank you,
just
sir.
we really got some really good insights in there, and more we didn't even cover because that was never going to be the goal to go
No,
through all of
it's
this,
too
right?
much. It's too much.
Just to hit the highlights.
Yep.
Anything you think we missed, or any other final thoughts before we call it?
Go down to slightly to the media companies. I also love and get to News Corp.
Mm-hmm.
Right? News Corp, they like the CEO is like the person keeping the eye on Facebook, Google, and Amazon, right? And I just love that every single time he's looking at their algorithms to make sure they're okay. And I love that he says that. And the other thing they did a really nice job of diversifying away from, as they call it, news and information with their Realtor.com acquisition and building that product out. So I sort of like the way the old traditional media company, keeping an eye on Facebook, Google, and Amazon, but diversifying with real dollars into something else, getting out of just pure, advertising.
Yeah, right. Well, again, I think everyone's trying to figure out that
Yeah.
diversifying the
And
revenue. If you,
I'll add one more piece while they're also Disney. Disney spent almost the entire call talking about their direct to consumer business, DTC all the way. And they are one of the few brands who could actually pull that off.
right, right. They're well established, well established. Great. Well, so
And then
awesome.
of course, as I see this, there's a couple typos I'm going to clean up before I send it out tomorrow because it's inevitable with 60,000 words.
Maybe that's what the next webcast will be. Is we'll just
No,
let
no, I'm
people.
not doing that. I'm not doing that.
That'd be painful. But so this was again just going through the publicly traded companies, which I think is a great addition. You do this quarterly, 45th day, quick as you can to
Yep.
get this out there. Obviously, some of this informs your quarterly trends, a lot of the conversations that you're having. Again, I love that you don't use the trades as your source. You use conversations and your own homework on that.
I don't use the trades for anything. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I not offended.
Yep.
Right, and the key piece there is just really kind of rolling up your sleeves and learning the stuff and diving into it and continually doing it. Right, it keeps getting better, Matt.
And
Proud
listen
of
to
what you put together here.
listen to the trade desk.
Listen to the trade desk. So with that, Matt, thank you. Hope
Thank
you
you,
had a
Sarah.
great summer. I will talk to you in the next quarter, and we'll talk some trends. Hold on one second. I wanted to.
Where are you going to now?
Yeah, and then yeah, so we
Ah,
will.
okay.
There we go. Just so we have this kind of look, so people remember what we look like.
Got to
How we
end
had
it
to
this
go
way. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, have a fantastic end to your summer, and we'll record again soon.
You got it, Rob. Thank you very much.